What's good, YouTube? Hopefully, and welcome to the house. Pre-sales for PHOTON HYPERNOVA have been wild, and Tier 0 now has theirs up. Yu-Gi-Oh! Daily will not be in the pre-sale game for this one. I've been asked about that a ton, and I've already told the channel this, but I'm repeating it. Yu-Gi-Oh! Daily is moving physical locations, upgrading, and I fully support that move, and I hear it might be Texas, so I'm pretty excited about that. But that leaves Tier 0 versus Gamer's Choice for the big boy competition here, or wait for the set to drop. And why Gamer's Choice was scary is they're usually so on point at being a bit under, right? Like the Bestial, Decor, Sprite, Tier Lament lately, if you bought those pre-sales, you ended up winning. You did not with the Ishizu stuff, but I think a lot of us thought that would be short printed, right? But when it came down to it, they did that in the EU, but not the US, and it ended up being oh so much cheaper. When it comes to this, I still think vendors have been pretty darn expensive. I think this should be $450, so we'll see how Tier 0 did, and I'll explain my thoughts on that. One thing I did want to give them credit for, though, is Sargos at $10 for a secret rare. Therions have been getting a ton of hype and buyouts leading into this, and there's arguments over the bricks. Is it good or not? Reminds me a bit of a mix of Odd Eye's Revolution Dragon being underestimated but having a ton of chatter at first, because there's a lot of talk about Sargos, and then also Gamma, oh, you play the brick, you have to play the brick, but a hand trap versus onboard presence and comboing is also a different story. That being said, let's go ahead and get into Tier 0's pre-sales, and then we'll break down all the drama and stuff from the Gamer's Choice pre-sales. Alright, let's up this towards 24. I see, $500 deck core here. So a little bit more expensive, but with the code, it almost gets to where I projected. Code What's Good 5 for 5% off, and support the channel directly will make this a bit cheaper. Is it going to be like 3 of everything? The site's pretty seamless right now, too. Usually during pre-sales, it's crashing. I know they changed web browsers to try to handle that traffic. It seems like it's working, although some of the listing, the 3x should be, over here. But yeah, it looks like it's working pretty well. And again, the pricing is at least better, but I'll explain the mistake I think pre-sellers are probably making if they're making it too. All right, so the Starlights are sold out. I don't think these are placeholders because they have actual prices. When Tier 0 tends to placehold, it's usually a ridiculous price, and it's just there to show that it's going to be in the set. They're missing the Tri-Brigade one, which Gamer's Choice does have up for pretty darn cheap for a Starlight, 130. I guess they're considering that Thrust might be the final one, and this could be the junk Starlight of the set, but a lot of people are actually excited about this Starlight as well. When it comes to it, all right, Pressured Planet at the top, 64. Triple Tactic Thrust right where I thought it should be, moving in on the set. 57, I thought it would pre-sale around 50 to 55, and with the code, it lands right in that range. And why I think that is estimated value pulled is still a part of sets, even if they're ordered less, to where people can open this up, chop up the value, and you're going to see 2.4 average Triple Tactic Thrust per case when you're doing mass cases. And when it comes down to it, you also have people really wanting the Cash Tier archetype because they want to play anything besides Flunder, Tier Lament, and Sprite. So this deck is pretty fun for people to build their boards with. Maybe not as fun to play against, but 64 towards the top ahead of talents here also. It seems like people are saying the archetype will win out versus the staple-ish card. We also have the Cash Tier Secret Rare at 51. So this is the mistake I think a lot of pre-sellers are making, is they're trying to play it too safe between the two cards of, oh, each of these could be the expensive card, especially when you're doing deck cores, because when it comes down to it and you look at releases of archetypes, one card usually magnets the price around 70 to 80, maybe 60, and the other usually falls to 30. This even holds true for the last set. You have Fenrir, which does have generic use on top of it, around 70, and you have the Unicorn that was down to 18 at one point, going 20, 25, 30, and they have that price disparity even though they're going to be played in the same deck. Yes, there is the staple aspect to Fenrir, but you do have the cards that end up separating themselves, and I think there will be a bigger price disparity even if you want both of these cards, where one card will magnet the price and the other will start to drop out. Gravekeeper Inscription at 30, I believe, is about where Gamer's Choice had it, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go ahead and look at secret rares. Yeah, they have it right at 30. I feel like a lot of returning players slash long-term players are Gravekeepers, and that's a bit of a player brain move. It's also a good card in general, but when it comes down to it, I feel like this should be an $18 card to $22 card at pre-sale, not at 30 necessarily. Rise Heart at 26. Big Welcome Labyrinth at 19. Okay. Labyrinth in the OCG is one of the top decks after a couple ban lists. We don't have those currently that are going to pave the way for this to be the third best deck necessarily, and with this coming out, also Kashtira is going to be a deck for the WCQ season, so I feel like it's going to be sometime, but a lot of people are spending their money on Labyrinth pretty readily. Those prices are solidly up on a cheaper set in Tactical Masters, so I see why people would price it like this early for the newest card, but I feel like versus EVP it should have been like $12 maybe, but I could see why people are trying to put it up. I still think it should be like 15, 12 maybe on pre-sales, especially with the rest of the value that is here. Now, I'm a big fan of the Chaos deck core being cheap. I think the deck is so good for what it is. It's just behind due to power creep, but it's so cool. Sargos at 16, so they are pricing it up above where Gamer's Choice has put it down. Gamer's Choice started at 15 and dropped it to 10, and so to Gamer's Choice credit, they're working on estimated value pull, then downing other things. I don't disagree with Tier 0 though. I think this will end up being an $18 card, so I see why it's there. Gamer's Choice gets the dub on that one. They need a couple with the pricings that they did. And then we go through and everything starts to get cheaper and bottom out. Okay, so my thoughts with pre-sales are still a bit overpriced / pricey here. It gets closer to what it should be at for pre-sales, and yeah, between Kashtira and the Triple Tactics talent, that's going to be the value of the set. That's pretty obvious to everyone, right? But how it was priced up for the chop up EVP estimated value pulled, it was not right. Now, my Fire and Brimstone, I would have treated TCG players so much worse. Here's the thing, TCG Player has a repeated history of pre-sale problems by locking it only to specific sellers who are not motivated to undercut each other. Gamer's Choice has a history of being pretty good during the pre-sale range, and I still spent 8 minutes breaking down all the different points of supply and demand, player brain, ban list brain, anything you could imagine, and said I would not buy the deck core over here. It's too expensive. A lot of people still ended up buying the deck core though, I believe, even though they still have it up. I think a lot of people ended up going in anyways. I gotta have it, I gotta need it, I gotta play anything but tier elements. I think they do a good job of trying to go through and price things out and bring other things down, but James, YCS topping player, I'm not blowing smoke up his A, I'm saying he does these things pretty regularly and has a knack for it, but still, I think this was too expensive, and I would not have made my purchase necessarily at these prices. Some of these prices are definitely better, Triple Tactics Talent and PHOTON HYPERNOVA's Kashtira deck core, but at the same time, my brain screams bloated. They could end up going the other way. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't know the future of card prices, but I do know that a lot of people want to play this deck. A lot of people want to get in on it, and I do think it will be topping. I do think it will be competing at that level. How will it perform, though? We'll have to wait and see, but a lot of people have been on this. This set has been pretty frustrating if it's not obvious how it's been handled, and I understand that people looking at the deck core and it being one of the most expensive of all time out of this set. The set has hype in the name. It does feel overbloated, overhyped, and I do hope that it comes down in price, but the demand really does feel like it's there, and the supply of these boosters versus a regular core set are also ordered less. So I'm not a fan of the direction that it's heading, and I do feel it, but man, it is frustrating. Triple Tactic Thrust, though, again, great job by Tier 0 overall for how they approach this, and it's nice to see competition ramp up and prices be cheaper and them go back and forth a bit. Thanks for watching today's video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the conversation. And I actually oddly do look forward to how TCG Player, with the sellers knowing these prices, how they actually try to approach will be somewhat interesting when they can list, and how things are going to go without daily in the mix. It looks like Tier 0 did hold true. They didn't try to just undercut by $5. They did really good margins. Tier 0 staying super solid on this one, in my opinion.